Hi, thank you all for joining us. We're really excited to have the opportunity to spend a little bit of time with you this evening to share with you about our academic advising programs that we're really excited about. And I want to thank Diane and Brittany for the work that they've done behind the scenes to help get this set up. And I'm thrilled to have the opportunity to present with my colleague, Dr. Troxel. So I want to invite you as we're talking to feel free, if you have questions along the way, to put those in the chat for everyone to see. And we'll try to get as many of those covered as we possibly can as we move through the presentation this evening. First of all, I just wanted to share with you that our academic advising programs are housed in our College of Education at Kansas State University in the Department of Special Education Counseling and Student Affairs. We're really thrilled and honored to be able to house those programs, and we've worked in close partnership with NACADA in the development of those programs. And at this point, I'll turn it over to Dr. Troxel to share a little bit about NACADA.
Hi, everybody. Welcome all the way from Tokyo, I see, and Canada, and all across states, provinces, territories, and beyond. So welcome. Really happy to have you joining us, whatever your time zone is right now. I'm Wendy Troxel, the director of the NACADA Center for Research at Kansas State University, and also an associate professor in the College of Education. And many of you, I see a lot of familiar names on the participant list. Many of you already know NACADA, the Global Community for Academic Advising, or NACADA for short. And helpful hint for those newbies, NACADA does not stand for anything anymore. It used to stand for the National Academic Advising Association, but it doesn't anymore because we are 14 or 15,000 members from over 40 countries. So we are truly a global community. I bring greetings from Dr. Charlie Nutt, who's the executive director of NACADA. Many of you know him, and this is a really unique partnership for a professional association, a global professional association, to be so connected to not only a university, Kansas State University, but also so connected to the College of Education at Kansas State University. And so we're going to talk about collaboration between NACADA and the department and the College of Education. We'll talk about the programs, but really what this does is it promotes scholarly advisors. So advisors, academic advisors who view their work in a scholarly way and know that there's a literature base, that there are theories that are employed, that we borrow from disciplinary orientations and theories, that we are teachers and educators first, promoting student learning much beyond the metrics of satisfaction and retention and those kinds of things. And so we're going to talk about the programs, certainly from an academic standpoint, but also thinking about praxis, thinking about how theory, how the literature informs the context of the work that we do with a focus on students and their learning and development. So Dr. Kraft, I'll turn it back to you.
Actually, if you want, I'll pass it right back to you to talk a little bit more about some of the careers and academic advising.
Sure. Yeah, so many of there are likely some of you who are not yet academic advisors who are on the call. It's fairly common in especially in our certificates and even the master's program, for there to be graduate students who desire to go into a career in academic advising. There are others of you I know on the call who are already academic advisors or advising administrators and want to talk about the PhD program or the master's program. So it's a very broad field, and very while there are lots of consistencies, there are also differences in various colleges and universities, what the structures of advising is at colleges and universities, faculty who are advisors, what we call primary role advisors or full-time academic advisors. There are specialties for advising, like TRIO, like career advising, like student athlete advising, and in the trade schools. And so it's a very, if you love students, if you love helping students succeed, it's really the perfect career for you. And anywhere from entry-level positions through leadership in higher education. It's all there.
Thank you so much for a great overview there. I want to just briefly give another overview, and that is when the various programs that we're talking about tonight actually developed. We started our graduate certificate program in academic advising in 2003. So actually the program started before I arrived at K-State, which is about 15 years ago. And then shortly after that, 5 years later, is when we started our master's degree in academic advising program. And it's been going strong since we started it in 2008. And we're really excited to be sharing tonight that we just this summer, launched our new PhD program in leadership and academic advising. For all of these programs, they're each we're going to spend some time talking about each one of them, but just kind of a general thought about these. If you're wondering what classes might be like here at K-State, classes are delivered obviously all online for these programs, as you probably already know, within a 16-week regular fall and spring semester, in an 8-week summer session for the most part. A couple classes are just 4 weeks in the summer, but it's pretty much a traditional kind of semester setup here. So I'm going to start by sharing a little bit about the certificate program. And first of all, there's a beautiful picture of Anderson Hall. I know these are online degree and certificate programs, but at some point we certainly would love to have you visit us on campus. We think it's a beautiful, beautiful campus. So the certificate program is a 15 credit hour program, which translates into 5 courses that are each 3 credits. You can see those on the screen. I frequently tell people that when I was trying to explore graduate programs, one of the things I did was look at the names of the courses I'd be taking in the program to see, does this sound like a good fit? Is this something I'd enjoy learning about in a classroom? And so you can see on the screen what some of the topics are that would be covered in this program. These 15 credits, these 5 classes can be taken in any order. We don't have any certain prerequisites. So it's not that you must take 835 before 838. We offer these on a regular basis. We have not heard of people who have any problems enrolling in one of these classes when they need them. And we have many of our students, many students who are distance students, enjoy working toward the certificate in academic advising, as do many of our own campus students who are in different graduate programs like to work toward this as well, because they've realized something that we knew, and that is having this additional knowledge and these additional skills really helps one become more marketable in terms of job searching and things like that. I am going to go ahead and cover the master's degree, and then we can stop for a second, see if there are questions about the certificate or the master's degree before we jump into the doctorate degree. But once again, I have to show you a pretty picture of Anderson Hall, the administration building. So the master's program is a 30 credit hour program, so that translates into 10 classes. You can see some of the same ones here that were listed in the certificate program, along with some additional ones. And again, I hope that as you look at the list of courses, it piques your interest and you think, I'd love to learn about trends in career development, or, oh, great, a class on college student athletes, how fascinating. And if that's what you're thinking, I think you'd find it to be true. You can also see that, on the screen that we have most of the courses we have established as required courses, but you get to choose one elective, one of the 3 that are listed on the bottom part of the screen. So there's a little bit of kind of deciding how or what direction you might want to go in terms of your work, or what kind of extra information that you'd like to have, what types of extra knowledge and skills that you'd like to gain. You have a little bit of an opportunity to choose that. So I'll go ahead and move on. We'll take a couple minutes here in a minute to answer some questions, but some basic information about admissions requirements are on the screen as well. We're looking for people with bachelor's degrees and a minimum of a 3.0 GPA in the last couple years of your undergrad experience. Applications are accepted year round. Just today, I had someone ask about applications, and I tell them that we don't have a real hard deadline for applications, but certainly I would encourage you to get those in at least a month before the semester starts that you'd like to enroll, to make sure we have time to process those. So this says plan within 2 to 3 months. That's making it really safe. But at the very least, if you get it into us within about a month, we should be able to take a look at those and be able to make a decision about those applications in time for the start of a semester. The application includes several different pieces to it, and it's important to think about this as you think about your application, because one of the pieces is a professional resume or a CV. just to gives us an idea of what kind of experiences you've had in the past, professionally, what kind of work you've done. Another piece that really is actually my favorite piece of the application is the statement of goals and professional experience. And you can see on the screen what we look for there. It's not a long statement, a couple pages is what we're looking for, but you're writing about things that will help us determine a couple things. One, is this a good fit for you? Is this program the kind of program that's going to meet your professional goals? There, every once in a while, we get a really qualified candidate applying to one of our graduate programs, and we realize, I don't think, probably not the best fit. Maybe they don't understand what our program is, and we want to make sure that we're providing the kind of support that you want and that you need. So I usually tell people at this point that we look pretty closely at the statement of goals, not only for the content, but for the writing style as well. So put forth your best effort in terms of writing this. Show us how well you can write while you do this, while you're submitting preparing your application. And I will note before we stop for some questions here that you are allowed to submit unofficial transcripts initially as part of that application packet, and that gives us enough information typically to be able to make an admissions decision before you need to submit the official transcripts. So at this point, I've covered the certificate program briefly and the master's program, and I wanted to stop to see if there are any questions about so far as we move forward.
Thanks, Dr. Kraft. We've had some questions. I've been doing a little answering on the side here. We've had some questions about particularly the 5 courses for the certificate program. How often are each of those 5 courses offered? For example, are some of the courses offered fall, spring, and summer, so so that they can choose that? One asked if they could take all 5 in one semester, which I said would be madness. But most of those courses are offered pretty frequently, correct?
That's right. Most of those are offered fall, spring, and summer. We have created a schedule to make sure that we're able to accommodate our master's or certificate and academic advising master's students' plans. And so I've never heard of a student not being able to get into a course when they need it at the semester that they need it. The other thing I will tell you is, we typically can create and have created in the past a schedule at a glance kind of thing, for lack of a better word, where we could show you if you get admitted into our program, one of our programs, we can show you, okay, we plan to offer learning principles this spring and this fall and this summer, and you can plan ahead. But we offer all of them regularly.
A question about submitting transcripts for consideration for admittance. So the 3.0 for the last 60 hours, if someone already has a master's degree and is going for a second master's or the certificate program, can the transcript from graduate work also be submitted?
Yes, we do like to see that. And there's a good reason why we like to see that, because and this might probably not the case for all of our attendees tonight, but if there was some sort of a struggle during the undergrad, maybe you didn't do the best that you would have liked to have done the last couple semesters of your undergrad, if we're able to see that, this applicant really did very well in graduate work, that really helps give us an indicator that you would be successful in our program.
There was a question about number of spots available for graduate and master's, and I indicated, correct me if I'm wrong, that there are no limits on number of students allowed in each program, correct?
That is correct. In fact, what frequently happens is that we get so many people who are wanting to enroll in classes that we often add an additional section of a various course or two each semester. I just got done kind of doing the course schedule for the spring, and I have about 4 or 5 academic advising courses that are hidden right now on the course schedule, ready to open up once the ones that are already visible get filled. And so so I hopefully that answers the question.
Some questions about, certificate versus the master's program, and especially this is for someone who's interested in being an advisor for athletes. The certificate kind of goes into the master's program, right? I mean, the certificate accounts for half of the 30 hours of a master's program. So there are a lot of students that I know who start with the certificate, fall in love with it, and then keep going, correct?
Absolutely. That's exactly right. Yeah. So
are the courses offered live? Are they synchronous, asynchronous, both? Can you work full time?
Yes.
Yes, yes, yes.
Most, I would say probably most of our students are working full time. Let me start with the last question first. Most of them are working full time. Each instructor really has a lot of flexibility as to whether or not the courses, or to what extent it's synchronous or asynchronous. I would say historically, it's been most of the courses have been mostly, if not fully, asynchronous. Sometimes there are some classes that are offered with a few synchronous sessions that are required. For those who might not know what that means, it means that there's a certain set time that everyone's required to be on Zoom, for instance, for a lecture or something like that. But more often than not, I think you're going to find asynchronous classes with maybe some optional synchronous sessions to go along with those. But it really differs by professor. And Wendy, you might want to add, if there's anything else that you want to add to that, feel free.
Yeah, no, that covered it all. There are some questions about transferring courses. So if someone took a student development theory course at the graduate level at another institution, is there an opportunity to transfer courses?
Absolutely. I believe the graduate school is willing to transfer up to 10 credits, which typically means three classes if they're equivalent. And so what you could do is either prior to applying into the program or after you're admitted, you can send me a copy of one of those, a copy of the syllabus for the course that you think might be, a suitable substitute. And if it looks like a suitable substitute, we're happy to do that.
Lots of questions about from individuals who have graduate degrees in other fields like school counseling, even some doctoral level work, and would a certificate or a master's program make them more competitive in the job market to be advisors? And that's a tough one. It is, the intention is that the courses that you take, the scholarship that you do, gives you an edge. You're deep in the literature. You are showing ways that you are a scholarly advisor or a scholarly candidate to be an advisor. So we have a lot of folks who want kind of a desire to switch careers. They may have been a high school guidance counselor for a while and now want to move into the college level. Any potential employer is going to look at your whole package of what you bring to that position. And if I have 10 years of experience as an academic advisor versus no years but a master's degree in academic advising but also counseling, it's you could make your case for that the scholarly work that you've done, and especially if you kind of keep a portfolio of activities. I teach the assessment of academic advising course, and they come out with a professional development plan and a deep understanding of having done an assessment project. And so I know that those who aren't yet advisors but have that experience through their practical coursework certainly are do well.
I would add, I agree. I mean, we actually, and I alluded to this earlier, we have students specifically in our master's program in college student development that come to K-State or that are pretty attracted to K-State because of the certificate that we offer as well. And so they get that along the way. So even for people, other people who are considering maybe some other options within higher ed, many have found the certificate to be extremely helpful for them.
Man, there's so many good questions. I feel like we should kind of keep going with a few questions before we get to the PhD, if you don't mind, Dr. Kraft, because there are really good questions about kind of instructional strategies. Somebody asked, do you watch pre-recorded films? How do you interact with faculty? Read primary materials? Connect with instructors, emails mostly, virtual office hours? I would say all of the above. It really is just like there are differences in teaching styles when you're face to face. There are some differences in teaching styles with all online. I know when I teach in the master's program, we have office hours. I have personal meetings, phone or Zoom meetings with students as needed. I also do some pre-recorded videos of kind of a romp through the syllabus. It's just as I would if I were doing that in class, but lots of different strategies, I'd say, right?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think, a number of us are, one thing that a positive outcome of COVID for many of us is that we have expanded, even some of the ways that we already thought we were doing good work, but I think we expanded even more. And, I'm teaching an online class right now, student development theory, where I do have some pre-recorded videos from an earlier semester that are still fresh and up to date with the material, but I'm also doing a live Zoom sessions and some discussion boards and some other things. And we're kind of a combination of those things. And we as a faculty we talk regularly about how do we make sure students are feeling connected? How do we make sure, what's the best way to make sure they're connected to each other, to us, to make sure that they, get that interaction. So discussion boards are a big piece of it, I think, for many of the classes. That'd be a big part of what you experience, with some guidelines about what that discussion should look like. A number of courses are set up with various modules to complete at a certain time, certain readings and assignments contained within a module. So you would definitely get a variety of experiences.
Yeah, and yes, we do use Canvas as our course management system. K-State does use Canvas. A question about when the admissions decision is made after application. It's kind of a rolling process for certificate and master's students, correct? So how long does it usually take from application to acceptance, or at least notification?
Sure. So when I receive those applications, I've set it as a personal goal of mine to make a decision about those, to consult with faculty if need be about those within a week, if possible, unless they're barring some extenuating circumstances. So once a decision is made, hopefully within about a week, then it gets communicated to a couple of other units on campus, and there are letters that need to be written and sent. And so even though a decision might be made within a week to 10 days, a letter might not be received for another week or two after that. But this is something that we prioritize in our department. We don't want to slow down the process. We want to welcome you in quickly. And so you have my word that as those come into my inbox, those get acted on really quickly.
Great question about who are the academic advisors for the students in the academic advising program.
That's great. It's almost as if someone got a sneak peek into some later slides. But yeah. Well, you're looking at two of them right here. So the academic advisors for the students in our academic advising program are the major professors who teach the courses in the program. We do much of the advising. And so when you're admitted into the program, you will receive a letter, and the letter will share the good news about being admitted, and it will also share who your major professor is. That's the terminology we use. Who your assigned major professor is going to be one of the faculty members in the program. That person will work closely with you, as will Pam McGlynn, who is our program assistant. If you're in the master's program, Pam McGlynn works with us as the program assistant and helps our master's students do some of the more logistical kinds of things that need to be done in terms of moving through the program. But I think you would find that not only would you get some excellent advising from your major professor and from Pam McGlynn, but you would get it from all the faculty members who are teaching the program as well. So I think you'd get it from a variety of ways, but you would have one assigned major professor.
Couple of questions on what's generally the workload of a certificate or a master's student or a graduate student taking one or two courses while working full time. What do you usually advise students to kind of watch out for as they're thinking about this?
About workload issues, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this as well, Wendy. But I think, a couple initial thoughts come to mind. One is I certainly, and this gets back to something Wendy said she wrote in the chat, I certainly would probably not advise students who are working full-time to take more than 2 classes at any given semester. I think you'd find that a lot of our students take 1 or 2 each semester as they work full-time, and it seems manageable, I think, to most. From what I've heard, that it's manageable to most. Occasionally, there'll be a student who might be, actually this happens maybe more than occasionally, we might get an email from a student who will say, you know what, I've got a really busy semester coming up at work. Can you recommend 2 courses that might go well together that semester that wouldn't be maybe as overwhelming as maybe 2 other courses? And we can give you some of those ideas and thoughts. I think we have some idea of what might, which courses might be more work intensive and which ones might be less. And so we can help guide you in those. So I think those would be a few things. The other thing I would say is there was a final project, and I didn't mention this, forgot to mention this. There's a final project for the master's degree program in addition to the 10 classes. And it's due the semester that you graduate is when you would finish the final project. It's something you do at home. You have, obviously use all your resources, that kind of thing. And it involves writing a philosophy of academic advising, drawing from the resources that you've learned in the program, as well as responding to case studies, drawing from the knowledge that you and the skills that you've gained in the program. And so that final project, when you talk about workload, that's actually the piece that I think sometimes students really think the most about. When's the best time for me to finish that final project and to graduate? It has to be the last part of your program, but that would be the one thing to really think around probably. Wendy, what would you add to that?
Yeah, I would agree. You know your margins. Graduate work is challenging, and I'm going to be pretty frank that the faculty prefer graduate students who are thinking deeply, digging deeply, and are curious. And that takes energy. That doesn't just take time, it also takes emotional and intellectual energy. And so while, sometimes you can kind of phone it in and just do the minimum, get it done, you're not learning very much. And so yeah, the really full-time, I would say, I agree with Dr. Kraft, full-time for a working professional is 2 classes a semester. I've known people that try to take 3 while they're working full-time, and something suffers pretty badly. So, but and so generally, I mean, the old adage is 3 hours for every semester hour outside of class. So 9 hours for a week for an in-class course, or a three semester hour course. That varies so dramatically, and it varies week by week. There was also, I would mention, a question about synchronous versus asynchronous. There have been a few questions, and most of the courses that we have in this program I would call synchronous, because not that we're all meeting at the same time like we are right now. It's pretty rare for that, and time zones make it really difficult. But I would call them synchronous in that you are working through a series of modules with everybody else at the same time. And so if a weekend is a discussion board weekend, then everybody, for my class, everybody posts by Friday night their first post, and by Sunday night or sometimes Monday for their second post. So that's synchronous in the due dates, but we're not meeting face to face at 7 o'clock Central Time on Thursday, for example, which is kind of truly synchronous. So most of the time they kind of move through that.
That's great. These are not correspondence courses.
They're not correspondence courses. That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
We do not just say, okay, here's the information that needs to be covered this semester, work at your own pace and make sure it's done by the end of the semester.
That's correct. Yeah. Can we give an example of how the classes allow students to apply knowledge learned in the classroom to real world experience? Kind of projects. Well, I can talk, for example, about the assessment course. The students actually do a small scale assessment project, a pilot assessment project of something that they know, data that they can get their hands on related to learning. And if you're an academic advisor already, that's pretty easy, and you work with your supervisor about what are some little projects to do. Those who aren't yet academic advisors, some of them work in schools. I've had a couple of pharmacists, for example, take that course and we talk about how do your clients learn? What data do you have related to learning that you need to know more about and assume less about? And so they do a full-scale pilot project from start to finish, and can apply that in their own work, regardless, as well as lots of other projects and writing um, that we have. How about your courses, Dr. Kraft?
Yeah, I think a lot of us try to make as much as possible our courses theory to practice. Now, the course that I teach in this program, in the master's and certificate program specifically, is the student development theory class, and so we cover, as the name implies, theories of how college students develop. We cover lots of different areas. Last week we talked about racial identity development. Tomorrow we're talking about ethnic identity development. We talk about moral development, religious development. And so much of what I do in that course is a little bit of personal reflection for those who are in the class to help them really, think about their own experiences as an undergrad. How did they develop? How did it align with the theories or not? But then I do a lot of case studies, and I frequently set up case studies in an academic advising context. So you're an academic advisor, a student comes to you, starts talking about this particular racial issue. How do you respond given the theory? So there are a lot of those, and a lot of small group discussions that we frequently have in class, even through Zoom, breakout rooms and such, where we're looking at and talking specifically about how do we use this information. There's no point learning it if we're not going to use it in many cases. And so we really strive to do that. And so I think you would find that among the faculty in the different courses that there would be strong, and we hear that from our former students, that much of what we did, what we've done in the classrooms in terms of showing how it applies or how it can be applied has been extremely useful for them.
Yeah, so that's true of this current question about, what if you're able to go to school full time? You're not currently working and you can't immediately apply the knowledge. And you kind of answered your question, to be able to articulate applications of the knowledge for this very practical type of program is very important. And then if it means, like, can you get your hands on a data set? Can you collect data? There are lots of creative ways to do that in lots of organizations. I've had students do it as part of their church organization, as part of working at Starbucks, as part of working at the pharmacy, or observing some educational situation. Lots of creative ways to do that.
I would add to that just today. So we're in the process right now of reviewing final projects from our master's in academic advising students. And just today, I reviewed one from a student who, final project, so she's preparing to graduate this semester, has never held an academic advising position. And I was quite impressed with her philosophy statement, with the way she responded to the case studies. And I mean, this is just one example of someone who's ready to walk right in and put theory into practice, has the language, has the knowledge, and it's just exciting to see that. So we have people coming in with all different levels of experience, and hopefully everyone leaves with some real practical ways to use this information.
A couple of related questions about other types of graduate programs. One asked about the difference between a master's in advising versus a master's in counseling education. Another talking about this program and adult learning and leadership masters. Have you seen creative ways to use electives to kind of create this hybrid or type of specialty in these kinds of programs?
I have seen in some. I mean, I think one thing to be aware of is that sometimes the counseling programs, particularly school counseling, are going to be focusing on K through 12 education. So one thing that's really important, and I just asked an applicant this via email just a couple of days ago, is are you wanting higher ed or K through 12? Because that helps distinguish right away, because certain programs really are geared for work in the K through 12 context. Our academic advising program is geared toward higher education, and so it does fit nicely. some of the coursework with some other programs, such as higher education administration, college student development. It probably could fit within some leadership, general leadership kinds of programs, maybe some counseling programs that aren't geared specifically to K through 12 education. We have our, in a neighboring department, there's an adult learning degree there, and they just recently contacted us and said, you know, to ask us about some of our academic advising courses and how that might be helpful for their students. So we're in regular conversation with people from other departments about some of those things. So absolutely, it's about figuring out what's the context in which I want to work, and how do I get there.
Yeah, it really does. It really does. It really does take some kind of pondering about your academic and personal professional goals for where you want to land. Question about specialization in international student advising, and got lots of experts in the department in that area.
We definitely have experts in the department. We don't have a course, a standalone course in that. I think what you would find is some of that information scattered throughout a couple of different courses. So I think that's, you know, from my understanding, my perspective of the faculty in our program, that would likely be where you get some of that information. And that would be that area, as well as some other areas in our program where maybe we don't have a standalone course for it. Would be times where we might say, you know, when you're given the opportunity to write a paper for a class and you're given the opportunity to pick a topic, choose something that you want to go out, you know, dig a little deeper into that maybe we don't have a standalone course for. You know, let that be an area that you seek to pursue and gain expertise in. And that's one of those areas. And we can't cover everything in our program. And so there are certain areas where, you know, we would encourage the students to dig a little more deeply on their own when they have the opportunity. Wendy, what would you add to that? If anything?
Yeah, I agree. Sorry, some really interesting questions coming in. So I'm I'm pondering questions here. Yeah.
I'm just moving it to Anderson Hall just to get a different change of view.
Okay. Couple of final questions in this segment, and then we'll talk about the PhD, and then we'll kind of really open it up to a bunch of questions, because this one's an important question about concern that there's no internship or practicum course in the program. Would potential employers be less likely to hire a graduate who doesn't have any practical experience, such as what would be gained in an internship?
I'm gonna pass that one to you, Wendy.
Yeah, that's a tricky one. That is, we've talked about that and continue to talk about that in the department. We have a lot. All I can say is we have a lot. NACADA is a network, a community, a global community, and we have had a lot of master's students who are not yet academic advisors but want some practical experience, and we just connect people, and there are you know, they're wonderful, those working in the universities, and this is really true of any time you kind of are switching gears going into a program, and you kind of, how do you find your activities, how do you find your experiences? I was just talking to a prospective student last week who happens to know somebody who knows somebody in academic advising at a university, and they've met, and they're going to do a little shadow work and do little projects and find ways to connect that to their coursework, and so you know, there are advisors who have been advisors for a long time and have never taken a course, and they're not as sometimes as attractive as those who have graduate work with products and projects and back again and back again. So you know, everyone's situation is a little different, and that's why it's really important to talk to your major professor early and often.
And I think you definitely can do those kinds of experiences outside of the curriculum. They don't all have to be for academic credit. I mean, we regularly tell students in several of our programs, if you want some additional experience, you want to try to understand what the setting is like, what the work is like, there's ways to reach out to possible individuals who would work with you and set up an agreement and you know, figure out a number of hours that you might be in that office to shadow and to, I mean, those kinds of things can happen even outside of the formal curriculum.
Yeah, it's a higher hill to climb for sure, but certainly doable if you want it.
Yep.
Do you have a feel for how the kind of the place rate, if you will, of the graduate certificate or the master's program and getting advising jobs? Do you have a feel for that?
I don't have exact numbers. I think it's been a real high placement rate. I think that's when COVID hit, it changed things. I think here temporarily for a little while. I mean, because some of the universities have put on some hiring freezes. So hopefully you can get started with your program now and be all ready to get hired once these hiring freezes are lifted. So prior to COVID hitting, I don't recall hearing from many of our students saying they can't find a position they're looking for. And so while I don't have that actual data, I also anecdotally would say that we've not heard that that's a concern among our students. So we do hear on a regular basis those students who get new positions or sometimes even promotions after they've finished a certificate or a degree program. So we frequently hear those wonderful stories that come to us, and oftentimes one of our faculty colleagues will email us and say, "Oh, do you remember so and so? I just found out that this person just took a new job here and there." And so we frequently share that kind of information. And like I said, anecdotally, I can tell you that it's been really positive.
Well, and the, the reputation of the program is pretty strong, is pretty high. A prospective student that I was talking to a couple of weeks ago said that she interviewed with another master's program, a student affairs program, and another institution, and in the interview said, "I'm really looking for a career in advising." And the recruiter for that other program said, "Well, you probably don't want us then. You should go to K-State." And so in the interview, she, okay, well, thank you. I guess I'll go to K-State then.
And I will, I'll add Nakata, Wendy's talks a lot about, Wendy's part of Nakata. Nakata is a great way, getting involved professionally in a professional association helps make some of those connections that frequently lead to jobs as well. So there's a lot a person can do to set themselves up for success in that. And we like to help. I mean,
Yeah.
we have connections all over the place. We like to help. If someone says, "Well, I'd really like to get to the state of Georgia or whatever," and we've got people who can say, "I know people at this university, this university, this university who work in academic advising. Let me get you connected with them."
Elizabeth set me up. Well, I don't know. I don't know if I know you, Elizabeth, but thank you for the question. If you're not yet an advisor, can you join Nakata? Oh my gosh, yes. It's pretty cheap. If you are a graduate student not working at a university, it costs, I think, $20. To join Nakata. And even if you are, I think it's under $100. I don't know, 75, 80, 85, something like that to join. Lots of resources at your fingertips when you're a member of Nakata. And we've been all virtual all the time for sure. Those of you in North America, the Caribbean, Canada, the states have access to region conferences that'll be coming up. We have international conferences. The next one is supposed to be in Greece in June. Hopefully we go there in person. It's been in other countries for sure, but lots of professional development. That's what the best thing you can do if you're looking to move to academic advising is to become a member, get on the listservs, do the webinars, dig into the clearinghouse, and familiarize yourself with the literature. And then you'll get the Nakata Journal, you'll get the Nakata Review, and Academic Advising Today, all the publications I could talk about. But I think we're starting to slow down a little bit on these questions. And if you're way up in the chat and I've missed you and haven't gotten your question answered, please go ahead and repost it. I think that was a flurry. That was a nice job, Dr. Kraft. And thank you, Diane and Brittany, who were also answering questions about other financial issues and such. But let me take a moment and tell you about the PhD program. So we couldn't be more excited, and I want to shout out to Dr. Ken Huey, who was our department chair for many years in the department, and Dean Debbie Mercer, who really moved this forward to come to fruition. And now Dr. Kraft is leading us in this next phase. The doctoral program requires a minimum of 90 hours post baccalaureate, so that means 30 hours comes from your master's degree. So there was really about 60 hours, 60 semester hours of new doctoral level work. It's a subplan under counseling and student development. So, but you do get a PhD in leadership and academic advising through the department. This one is a cohort model. So unlike the certificate master's program, that's a rolling admissions, and we'll take as many as we can teach in those programs. The doctoral program is a cohort model. So currently, we have 12 students in cohort 1 who started their coursework this past summer. So they're in their second semester of coursework. Our goal is somewhere between 12 and 17 in each cohort or so. It kind of depends on the pool and how that admissions process works. Just like the master's and the certificate program offered through K-State Online, through Canvas. We're a lot more synchronous though. So for example, the students this semester, every Tuesday evening, they might have a course that they meet on Zoom together at the same time. Right now, the time zones are working out for that, but if we have international students from UAE or the Netherlands or Japan, we would work it out. We would work it out. What we find that is important though, in a doctoral cohort especially, is to get together as often as is reasonable together on Zoom, so they can kind of get to know each other, the faculty can get to know them. We do have a residency. It's not really a residency, it's an on-campus experience. So for the first 3 summers, students will come to campus, to Manhattan, Kansas, to spend a week together in 3D. This past summer, we had to do that online, as you can imagine, but we spent the whole week. And so those weeks will be published very soon. So for example, this group knows the exact dates for 3 summers that week experience is. It's in July. It's usually about the 2nd or 3rd week of July, and attendance is mandatory. And so to be admitted to the program, they have to agree that they'll show up in Manhattan with us or online with us. So even though we were online, for example, they had the week off from their jobs, which they had worked out with their supervisors ahead of time, and we spent the whole day every day together for a week, and it was a really fun experience for us all. Because it's a cohort model, it's a very prescribed program, unlike the certificate and master's, where you can take this one, then that one, and then maybe I'll take 2, and then maybe I'll take none, and maybe I'll take 1, and then maybe I'll got 3 because I can do that. This one is 2 courses per semester. Our current schedule is 7 consecutive semesters. So they started in summer. So they're going summer, fall, spring, summer, fall, spring, summer. Then they'll be done with their coursework and they'll do preliminary examinations in fall of 20 whatever that is. So it's hefty. It's a serious commitment to scholarship. Some of the courses, by the way, is just the cohort in those classes, and some of the courses are with our other higher ed doctoral students as well in some of our other programs. They do professional development. We have what we call our first Tuesday meetings. So they've blocked off Tuesday evening, the first Tuesday of every month for about 4 years. And we meet together, and we sometimes we just do a check-in. Other times we do professional development. We do panels. We do higher ed leaders. We talk about serious topics, and other times we just vent. And so we're just being a cohort. You know, it's the beautiful thing about a cohort model is this camaraderie. They've come up with a team name. There were a bunch of names, and I'm not coming up with what they've decided, but Advising Avengers was high on the list. But but they have their own identity. They have meetings themselves without us, without the faculty, which is great. But lots of opportunities for collaboration with the faculty and your major professor, who is your advisor. What I'm most excited about, certainly from my lens, is the opportunity to do collaborative research even before your dissertation, to do writing, give presentations, dig deep into scholarly inquiry. And so we're having a lot of conversations right now that they're underway, about the kinds of things that each of them are interested in getting involved in. You want to head to the next slide there, Dr. Kraft? Yeah, so we're going to give some more information sessions specific to the new doctoral program this spring and summer. Admissions requirements are available already on the website. One thing that I just wanted to note. For the doctoral program, we do not require a GRE. And what the faculty talked about was, what is a good predictor of success in doctoral work? What is good predictor of success in doctoral work related to academic advising? And what we decided was that any doctoral program asks you for a writing sample. Most doctoral programs ask you for some kind of writing sample, some scholarly writing sample. It's not always easy to come up with that if you've been not in a master's program for a while, or the kind of job you have right now is very practice oriented and you don't do a lot of scholarly writing. So we decided to level the playing field on this, and we've got a prompted scholarly essay that is part of the application packet. So we ask you to think deeply about some critical issue related to academic advising that needs further study, that needs to be thought about, that is complex, that is important, and that there's either literature for, or there's a lack of literature for. So that takes some time, and so I wanted to kind of bring that up to those of you who are thinking about this, that that's a commitment in and of itself, is to write a scholarly paper for the admissions packet, and that takes some time. And what are we looking for? The things that I was talking about earlier. Are you curious? Do you think in complex ways? We don't expect you to be at the highest level scholarly writer at this point. Maybe you are already, that's fantastic, but most of our doctoral students are great thinkers, and they get better at scholarly writing. We want to see your thinking at this point, and kind of how you put thoughts together and arguments together. So typically the application is due now for this next cohort in early December. So we've got over a year now before the application. So that's plenty of time to write, and then you could publish it. Who knows? At this point, we anticipate the next cohort will start a year from this summer. In summer 22 for cohort 2.
And we are running out of time, so I'm going to kind of flip here and just say a couple words. We do try to support you all as much as we can, both the major professor, the faculty members, global campus. We have a lot of resources that are available to you that you can access online, and we would be sure to point you to those. A lot of information available about financial assistance, scholarships. If we don't answer those questions tonight, reach out to us afterwards so we can try to get you some information. We have a video online. We're not going to watch it tonight. I think I'd rather spend some time answering questions, but there's a video that's on our webpage that can share, in which you can hear what we call a student success story, one of our many students who's been successful in our program. And at this point, I think I'll just kind of stop to see if there are other questions, so that we can, respect your time and wrap things up in a timely manner. So. And Diane or Brittany, if there's anything you wanted to jump in and say at this point, might be a good time, as well, as we're kind of making sure that we've answered questions.
There was a question about percentage of students admitted to the master's program that have a bachelor's degree and little to no advising experience. A lot. There are a lot. I would say, I think the first time I taught the research course, I think 65% of the students in the course were not yet academic advisors.
I say there's a lot too. A lot of people, when I read their statements, their professional statements and their applications, they've just decided that they realize that that's really where their heart would lie, working with college students, doing that kind of work. And so in many ways, they're making a change in career in some ways.
Are there intersession courses for the program?
Not currently. There are none currently. Depending on need and demand, that's something that could change in the future.
How about graduate assistantships on campus?
We don't have any of those available either. I think those are, we don't have many of those in many of our programs, to be honest with you, in the College of Education. A lot of our students get graduate assistantships. A lot of our on-campus students get graduate assistantships in other offices on campus that relate to the kind of work they do. So,
yeah. So are there some disciplines that have assistantships in advising that you know of?
There'd be some offices that would, but it differs based on college, based on the college at K-State and that kind of thing. So it's kind of hit or miss in terms of assistantships. We do have a lot of academic advising offices on our campus who would take practicum and internship types of students for experiences.
Brian, great question about costs. Yeah, students are responsible for the costs during that summer week, but there is a very inexpensive on-campus, the residence halls do summer conferencing, and that's pretty inexpensive, but yeah, students are responsible for getting to and from Manhattan and staying there. Great question about career paths for the PhD students. Would students be able to teach in departments of education? Certainly thinking about teaching as a career path is something to think about really early. There are ways to get experience, kind of teaching assistant types of experiences. It is certainly more heavily weighted to leadership, to administration. So directors of academic advising, associate vice provosts for academic success, even provost positions down the line if you're in a discipline. But we do have some students coming out of our master's program who got doctorates and are now teaching in our master's program as well.
Yeah, so sorry, go ahead, Dr. Kraft.
I was just going to ask if there are other questions. You go ahead.
Awesome. Does anyone else have any last minute questions? Perfect. Well, we are about done for our webinar. So I want to thank Dr. Kraft and Wendy for that wonderful presentation. And I want to thank everyone for joining us here tonight. If you are ready to apply, please visit our website at online.ksu.edu and select how to apply for detailed instructions. And as a reminder, everyone who has registered for this webinar will be receiving a recording via email as soon as it's available. And finally, if you have additional questions that we didn't cover tonight, please don't hesitate to reach out. And we also want to be sure to let everyone know that we do have application fee waivers available to those who are applying for the master's degree program. So feel free to reach out to us at online@ksu.edu when you're ready to apply, and we will provide you with a code. So again, thank you so much everyone for attending, and we look forward to hearing from you.